I'm getting money, you see me. Stack it up to the ceiling. If you're looking for me, you know just where to find me. I'm on a pod with TC, Oh, I'm on a pod with TC.
Continues to live, the trust will not die. And I think the biggest problem that people have, and I saw this happen in Pittsburgh, where a property was set up with an attorney in a trust, and the attorney didn't do his job, and they ended up losing the property because you still have to pay the taxes. And if there's no money in that trust other than real estate, the real estate isn't spilling off cash.
Right.
So that can become an issue.
Thank you.
Ms. Gloria, you are a jack of all trades. And one of the things that, and again, I don't know if you're on social media, but one of the things that has been a topic on social media has been two topics. One is individuals who feel that renting is cheaper than owning a home, but you eloquently already covered why there's so many benefits to owning a home versus renting. And then two, there's conversation centered around, I just lost my train of thought, apologies. There's conversation centered around once you do buy a home, there's people who are these influencers, or they throw in videos saying, oh, I gotta pay this, I gotta pay that. Like they're starting to see headaches and the rough patches that come with owning a home. Me as a homeowner, to me, I'm like, I mean, that's with anything. If you own something, let's say you own a big PNC building or a big building, there's going to be a ton of issues and problems that can arise with that. And my question to you is, if I'm putting it in the form of a question, is what do you say to people who absorb social media content as ways to skew their thinking and their mindset when they really don't get the full picture? They get either the positive spin to a personal testimony that someone has, or they get the negative side. Just what are your thoughts on, you know, the world we live in, where social media is so impactful in so many people's lives, and they take everything they consume from wherever and they take that and run with it?
Social media does influence many people, but you have to realize that you don't have a lot of professionals on social media. Mm-hmm. So get your information from someone who knows the profession, who understands the real estate. And also, I don't go on social media a lot because I do find that a lot of people are there talking about things they know nothing about. And so I kind of avoid social media. But now I may go on social media simply because I think that the people who are complaining, or the people who are giving this information on social media, we know they have not had a good experience, and the good experience may be because they're not educated.
True.
And once you're educated and you understand that purchasing a home, yeah, you do have to maintain it, but look, it's like you're depositing into your own bank account when you're maintaining your home or when you're improving a property. So to me, and I've always been a homeowner, so to me, I see real estate as a way to build wealth. Any other questions? Yes.
Well, mine is, this isn't, it's not a question about residential real estate. I wanted to know if, well, you probably are, but if you're knowledgeable with like REITs.
Yes. Yes. Well, REITs are typically commercial. What they do is they combine, or they bundle investing in real estate properties. It may be multifamily, real estate, whatever. But what's happening in that area, and I'm not an expert in that area, but I do try to touch all of the areas as I read up and stay on top of what's going on. With the REITs, what's happening right now is that they're investing in commercial properties. And commercial properties are going down. Okay. And that's the result of COVID. Because during COVID, all of the office buildings where people were working, these people had the opportunity to work from home. And now the people that were leasing and renting all of these buildings are like, hey, why pay all that big rent when my people are happier working at home, and in many instances, they are more productive. So, right now, I personally would not invest in REITs. One of the things that I suggest to people is look at what kind of return on investment you're seeing, and I think it's something like 5% the last time I looked. And to me, that's a better, let me put it this way, if you got $500,000 and it's just sitting around and you're not looking for any real return, then you might want to sit it there because it would be secure. But if you're talking about investing $100,000 or something, buy some real estate. You will see a better return on your investment.
Okay, because I was going to ask you, like, what are some cons to it, but you pretty much just.
Well, and then to her point, you could get that for a CD rate right now where there's no risk involved. So, like, it's not really, like you said, not a good return on investment.
Yeah.
So, Ms. Gloria, so you, and again, you're a Swiss Army knife, so I love it every time I get the opportunity to listen to you speak. What do you come across when people are starting the home buying process? Like, what are some of the rejections or things that you see people in our community struggle with when they start to pursue trying to be a homeowner? I know for me personally, being in banking, I always see, credit score be the first thing people think that. And I'd be like, nah, you don't know which lender and what the credit requirements are if you already in your mindset think you don't have a credit score you need to be a homeowner. Because most people think, the uneducated ones think, oh, I got to be in the 700s to go apply to be a homeowner. And that we know that's far from the truth. So in your experience, what has been the roadblock or the barrier you come across when people try to talk to you about owning a home?
Well, right now, there are very few barriers for home ownership simply because the banks are sitting on money that they're trying to give away. But here's what you've got to consider. Just because the bank is offering you these great rates and all, look what's behind it. Down payment assistance is a big thing now. And I know that I shouldn't be putting the brakes on this, but I'm telling people, when you hear that the different agencies are giving up to $90,000 for down payment, look at what is involved with that. Are you going to have to pay that back at the end of owning your property? Or is there a forgiveness there? Because having lived around the country, I learned a lot, because in Pittsburgh, I did the first phase of Crawford Square. And they had a lot of programs there through the URA, and people were so excited to be able to get these down payment assistance loans, and not realizing that in some of these earlier products, you did not own the land. When it was all over and done with, your house could be torn down and you still wouldn't own the land. So on some of the original programs, and they're still doing them, on some of these programs, you never are forgiven the second mortgage. So you get $90,000 down, you're buying a house for, $200,000. So you're going to pay off that first mortgage of, well, let's say of that $90,000, maybe $10,000 of it is closing costs, okay? So you're going to have $90,000 loan that never goes away. You're going to have $110,000 mortgage on that house. When you pay that house off, you're going to still owe that $90,000. Now, let's say you want to give that property to, or you want to bequeath it in your will to a son or a daughter. They're going to have to come up with that $90,000. I had a situation that I know of where a young lady had a son that was autistic, and she had fully paid off her mortgage. And when she passed, her son lost the house because he couldn't get a mortgage. And the mortgage was still outstanding on the property. And that was kind of sad because there was no one that could step in. He wasn't on the mortgage. So it wasn't like he could even sell the property. And so you needed a family member or someone to come in, open probate, and then try to sell the property, but then they still would have to pay off the $90,000. That's still not a bad deal if you can get the house sold for, let's say the house now is worth $250,000, so you still have equity in that. But these are some of the things that people have to consider when they're purchasing with a lot of these down payment assistance programs.
So would you not recommend them?
No, with everything, I say I have 3 E's that I think of. The first is educate. Let's educate people before they do anything. Let's empower them to make sure that they can afford to do this. And then we can elevate them to wherever it is that they aspire to be. But no, education is the key. As long as you understand in advance, maybe it wouldn't be a bad thing to get a $90,000 mortgage, but now you better maintain that property. And if you get ready to sell it, you have to pay off that $90,000. So let's say that you purchased the property for let's say $200,000, and after 10 years you decide you want to sell it. Now in the first 10 years you don't pay down much on your mortgage, okay? So that $90,000 doesn't start to reduce. So let's say that you decide you want to sell it, and you have to keep in mind that it has got to appraise for the full $200,000 that you paid for the property. And let's hope that in your excitement for being able to buy a house, that the house was worth what you paid for it. Okay, because you don't want to be in a situation where, okay, maybe it's not a choice to sell. Maybe something happens and you're able to sell the house without being upside down. So that's important to make sure the value is in the property that you purchase.
And coming from my banking background, I'll just be honest, reading the fine print is one of the things I know from personal experience that, I'll just be blunt, black people don't care to, we're just there to get the deal done, sign the documents. So when and I've done loan closings, and they'll read, they'll pretend they're reading, and then, but they haven't really understood either what they read it or they didn't read it at all, and they just gave a facade that, oh yeah, I understand what I'm signing. And it's a real troublesome for our people, because then a couple years later, they're coming in and they have no idea the rules and regulations of what the loan they just took on. So to Ms. Gloria's point, it's a big problem from that standpoint.
That's so true. And I had a young lady, and it was kind of sad. She purchased a home. They built her a new home. Just to give you an example of why you have to be very cognizant when you're purchasing a home. They built her a home, a new home on the hill with no air conditioning. Okay? Okay? They built those homes on Clarissa Street with no AC. Okay? And several years later, I think it was 7 years later, she came down with cancer. And she couldn't work. She lost her job. And she had a loan where she had a balance, a second mortgage, and she wasn't able to make the mortgage payment. She stayed in it to the point where it became delinquent. And when we got ready to sell it, it was so sad because she had no equity in the property. She had no equity in the property, and I actually gave her $1,000 to move, and that was a sad situation. And then you have a house that's a brand new house. It's built with no air conditioning. So these are the things that you need to look at. And this was built in 2009. It wasn't built back in the 1900s. Okay? So these are the things that when you're purchasing, think about it. Would you buy a house that had no garage? Now they're building houses with no garages too. So, and I'm not going to say who's doing that, but I got a problem with that too. Because if you're purchasing a home, that home should not be a home that you have to live in the rest of your life. It should be a home that you should be able to sell it, move up, buy something more. It's a starter home, but you want a starter home that has a garage. I mean, you want a home that you can resell, or you can't move up. So those are some of the things you have to take into consideration when you're purchasing as a first-time home buyer. And you need someone to walk you through this process, because as first-time home buyers, getting all of this down payment assistance, we get really excited, and all we want to know is, can I get it? But once you get it, you're stuck with it. Okay.
I think Aaron.
Yeah, my question is, I know a friend of mine is out in Maryland who's a real estate agent, but I know he's been pushing a lot of NACA programming mortgages on his clients that he works with. And so my question to you is like, do you recommend NACA versus like going through a traditional mortgage?
I don't want to comment on that.
I get that.
And I'll tell you why.
I was thought about asking that question. So.
Right. I don't, you know, and it's, by the way, I owned a mortgage company. I was a mortgage lender. I was a mortgage lender for SunTrust Bank, for Regions Bank, for AmSouth Bank, and I'm telling you, I've worked for a private lender, and as owning my own mortgage company, I had a lot of companies that, you know, the secondary market. Everybody wants you to buy their loans. So you have to be very cautious about a lot of these programs that sound really great, but remember, when you sign on the dotted line, it's yours. Okay.
What's the big difference between a primary and secondary market lender?
Okay, on the primary market, typically they hold their loans. You know, they keep their loans. The secondary market would be FHA, VA. The FHA insures the loans. The VA guarantees 25%. You know, it depends. The secondary market is typically the market in which they sell the loans.
Okay.
And we have a lender here. You're a lender, right?
No.
No.
I think about no, I'm not one.
Okay.
I was with a lender, I'm not anymore.
Okay, but typically on the secondary market, the loans are sold, and they don't hold them in-house.
Okay. So
Here-
there's
I had
a
that happen
third
to
party
me.
involved?
I had that happen to my house. I got my initial through, her name just escaped me. Well, Penny Mac owns my house now, so, or owns my mortgage now. So it was through someone else when I originally got it, and then it wasn't even long. It was probably like 6 months, and they sold it to Penny Mac. So.
Okay, so there's always pretty much a third party involved?
Yeah.
And the terms, nothing can change when they sell your loan.
Yeah.
You know, they can't change any of the term or the interest rate. But you think you're with one lender and you're with another, and they can do that. It's all legal, and they do it a
All
lot.
the time.
They usually send you a letter before it changes over or during the change, and then if anything, you probably just making payments to a different address or something like that, maybe.
Right.
Okay.
And it's a pain as a banker or a former banker. It's a pain because, again, like I was saying, our people are so uneducated, so they go screaming and hollering at XY banker when it had nothing to do with them. And, you know, so it's so pivotal to understand what you're signing, everything involved, because it will save. And then you can do your research post, you know, that information you got, because it is a lot. Like, you know, at closing, you need the whole day.
I think that's why a lot of people are intimidated by owning a home, because it's like a lot. You gotta read it on, you gotta be educated on it.
But it's the biggest purchase you'll ever make in your life for most, you know, almost, you know.
It is.
So it's you know, it's going to be that way.
But it's part of like your life.
Yeah.
Like driving or something. So
Right.
you have to do.
Yeah,
That's
for sure.
That's crazy.
Anybody else?
I just want to ask her about the information. If you want to share with people like how to find out how money owed to them from the Treasury.
Okay, yes. Before we leave here today, I'll give you a flyer, and you can give me a call, and I will go you through the process. I'll take you through the process. Okay.
Yeah, you gotta pay for that.
No, I'm glad you said that. No, you don't have to pay for that.
So is there a way that's like the people that's going to watch this? Is there any way that they have to go through you to find out if they're owed money, or just like an external source?
Well, I do the research. A lot of this is not readily available to the public.
Gotcha.
And so it's just like with many other things, you can't go and do your own mortgage. Because you have to do the research to find out what everyone is offering, whether they're offering 15-year, adjustable, whatever. So it's always good to go through someone. And by the way, I'm glad you made that comment. No, we do not, this is the good part. We do not charge you a dime to research to see if there's anything out there that's owed to you. We look at all the different treasuries and depositories. If we find something that is yours, then we will notify you. We will sign a contract with you. The state regulates what we charge. We charge 15%. That's the maximum. Nobody can charge you anymore. And we do all of the work. We don't get paid until you get paid. In fact, the state, all the government agencies, if there is money out there owed to you, let's say there's $15,000 owed to you, or $20,000 owed to you, they do not take our money out of your money. They give you the full amount. They have to. It's the law. And then we have a contract with you. You in turn then pay us the 15%. But we don't charge a dime. You don't pay anything until you get your money.
Doesn't it usually take like a few months or something?
I didn't hear you.
Doesn't it usually take a few months?
Oh, yeah. They don't want you to have it.
It's U.S. Treasury, right?
Well, the U.S. Treasury, the state treasuries, we do the local treasuries. No, I have a situation right now, and they're like, oh, you're trying to jump ahead of everybody. I said, look, I know these guys because I also go and sit in on the sheriff's sales. I know what's owed on those properties. And so when somebody bids them in higher, I contact the owners and say, look, your property's sold, let's go get the money.
Hey, for real.
Yeah. Okay, let's go.
No, and they will put you off. Well, we need time to make sure there are no other claims against the properties. We can't just give them what the difference is, and that's all good and well, but they need to know that we're coming for it.
Right.
Okay.
I guess my last question, and without making this a political thing, is there any correlation, or if there is, can you explain when we're talking about, obviously it's a presidential year, is there any correlation when we're talking about who candidates are and things of that nature? And again, I don't want to make it a political conversation, but is there any benefits to understanding what these politicians are saying and doing when it comes to real estate? Because I'll give an example. I think they just passed that Allegheny County, there was approval for appraisals to be just done on people's property. So with that being said, is there a correlation between understanding what's going on in the political realm because it impacts us on the real estate and owning homes and all that other stuff? Just your experience on how the two come together and what we should be considering when we're going to vote for whoever our politicians are, either local, state.
Here's what we have to realize, is it depends upon your constituency, how involved they are, and we have a tendency to be reactive instead of proactive. So when we hear these things that are being considered or being talked about, we need to get together and say we don't like it, or we do like it, and we want it to pass. And that's one of the